Hey, welcome to 23 Degrees Sideways. So, in light of the storming of the Capitol, which was, I think it was orchestrated as part of Pelosi's backup plan to become Caesar, we need to talk about Rome. Rome is really fun to talk about because everyone thinks they know Rome. The Roman Empire, bread and circuses, and that's about all they know. So, during the depending on who you talk to and what theories you follow, there's the early, middle, and late Republic, and then the early Empire and the late Empire. The imperial phases are pretty easy to separate out because of Diocletian, who basically took all of the stuff from the Republic, the dispersed government, the distributed government and power, and centralized it into an imperial bureaucracy that was very, very much like the federal government. Very highly structured, organized, could do anything, go anywhere, see anything. And that was the beginning of the late Republic. That's when the people and the localities, the provinces, so to speak, or kingdoms or whatever, that's when they stopped being important, and the central bureaucracy, the court, the administrative state, the deep state, became important. And of course it was run by aristocratic families. You know, you always have a power center. That's the late Empire in a nutshell. We're not there yet, all right? But what caused the Roman Republic to switch to the imperial mode? Well, the switch to the imperial mode wasn't as big a deal as people really make it out to be. Most of the Roman Republic was an empire. Most of the Roman Empire went about its business, operated the same way. They just had a more or less competent executive in charge who did not have a strong constitutional basis, so they killed each other and, made bids for empire and stuff. That part was not particularly great, but the government itself operated much the same as it had prior. The difference between the middle and the late Republic, this is where we're at right now. This is Tiberius Gracchus, assassinating tribunes and storming the Capitol and the people, the movement to the people. And so at one point in time in Roman history, Rome got a bunch of land and stuff. And Rome was a very light federal type of system. You were part of Rome, part of the Roman Empire, but all that meant for you as an independent kingdom, later province, whatever, was that your troops fought under a Roman banner with Roman discipline, not necessarily in Roman units. It was still perfectly fine to have the 1st Pennsylvania Cavalry, and you occasionally sometimes paid some moderate taxes to Rome, depending on situations. That's about it. That was the heavy hand of the Roman Empire in the Republican era. Well, Rome was an expansionist state at the time, and money really wasn't a problem. Neither was land. And the problem was that was all that money and land was being sucked up by the equestrian class, the upper classes, the landed gentry. And people in Rome, the plebeians, were getting poorer and more insecure and more angry. And there was a movement, and this is where Tiberius comes in, to give some of that land that was that the Roman state had received from conquest or gifts from other kings when they died. There's some really weird, fun stuff in there. Why does all that land, which is technically public land, get controlled by, operated by, farmed by, profited by, and get the dachas, the country mansions, are built for the aristocrats, and the people who are getting progressively lower on the economic scale aren't seeing any of the results of their society, their government, their empire. So the movement is to provide small holdings, land, to the people. Big drama, man. Major drama. People get killed. And in Rome, this is kind of complicated because a lot of stuff that we think of as leftist, was right-wing conservative in the model that we're going to use for Rome, and a lot of stuff that was right-wing conservative now was more or less leftist for Rome. So it's a little, it's as messy as it actually is now. People just like to make simple binary, and you'll notice that the media changes those binary categories at whim when they're trying to practice their mind control and propaganda techniques. So, whatever. So that was it. That was a lot of what happened in Rome. And then the bread and circuses thing wasn't actually bread and circuses. There was a government ration. It wasn't even a ration. There was a price guarantee for a certain amount of grain that the government said you had to sell at this low price so that everyone in Rome could eat. And then, well, after that, you had basically your free market. And that was opposed by the upper class elites who controlled the government land because they considered the government land to be theirs and the people to be robbing them of their own profits because government land. This reminds me of Harry Reid leasing off large parts of Nevada for Chinese solar companies, for example, right? So what happened in Rome was that this late Republican phase was getting politically very weird. And so Rome had periodically had certain types of emergency executive authority, dictator, what modern word is dictator, being one of them, but everyone misunderstands that word, so we'll just use dictator. And in a sense, that literally meant the head of the Senate having executive authority for a temporary period of time. The Senate wasn't the Senate the way we think of it now. It was everybody who had held office, who had held public office in Rome, was a member of the Senate. Basically, veterans of civil service. So then you had the tribunes elected by the people. There's some complications there, but the thing is the triumvirate. There's this three-sided power, or the three-headed dog, as political wags said, at the very end of the Republic, wanted to kind of fix things. Okay, that was really a goal, was to fix things. So Caesar comes back enters Italy, that's crossing the Rubicon, to take his emergency power as dictator, as Speaker of the Senate, is a really rough translation that is more accurate than dictator, okay? The only difference was he declared himself dictator for life instead of for a term. And that's actually what got him assassinated, okay, was that he made the monarch leap. There was never safe to call yourself a king in Rome for a whole lot of various reasons. And this brings us to Nancy Pelosi, who I really feel has been having that idea that she's going to take over the government for the good of the people, for the good of the state, in her head. I don't know if her dementia has progressed to the point where it's just really not possible. Her dementia is on display. If you actually watch her interviews now, she's not doing well. But 10 years ago, give me the Pelosi of 10 years ago, and I would absolutely believe that is part of what is being pushed with these programmed events. Notice that these events all follow certain cycles, okay? So the media went a little too far celebrating the cancellation of a teenager by another teenager, and people went, so that dropped out of the news. But they didn't apologize for it. They didn't say, oh, we went too far. They found some right-wing negative story to tell you, to get you angry so you would forget about the bringing cancel culture to high schools so that people can't go to college because of something they said when they were 12. That kind of shit, all right? That's still there, right? That hasn't gone away. They haven't canceled the cancellation. They haven't. No one's paying a penalty. They just found out that the story wasn't as popular as they thought it was gonna be because they live in a bubble. So they came up with some right-wing negative blah story, right? And they keep doing this. Well, you have programmed events. And whether or not the events are programmed or the reporting is programmed or some combination of the two doesn't really matter at this point. Everything that has happened this week has an alternative purpose the justification for an authoritarian power grab, and ahistorical authoritarian power grab. Right now, as I record this, they're talking about trying to use the 25th Amendment to remove the last week of Trump's presidency. But the 25th Amendment, if you read it, literally says that the cabinet can go and say, hey, this is a thing, if the president is unable to discharge his duties. Now they're trying to use it as an end run around impeachment, okay, which is why a bunch of cabinet level positions have resigned. They're being pressured to make an empire, and they're resigning instead. Pay attention to that one, okay? That's one of the things, Betsy DeVos resigned, okay? I mean, she was out anyway. There was no way the Democrats are going to allow free school choice by poor black people in inner cities. Are you kidding me? Actual education and freedom? They're Democrats. What are you crazy? Got to keep the people down, man. So you're not going to get school choice. You're not going to get a functional Title IX. None of that's going to happen. All right, let's be real. We know we know Betsy DeVos is on the way out, but she resigns, and the media has got everyone convinced that she's resigning because of Trump. Well, she's resigning because people are pressuring her to do something really crazy, weird, bad, wrong, and illegal with the 25th Amendment. Think about that, okay? There's always this plan to make an authoritarian power grab. It always seems to be there, and they do it periodically. And right now, we're looking at a couple of years of absolute knee-jerk authoritarian power grabs. And you're going to be demonized if you don't obey. The homestead movement, the homeschool movement, it's all going away next year. Just watch it. That actually bugs me a little bit. Like, I mean, it's an adventure, and life is a game, and there's another, next time you're around, you'll be born into a different body. But man, you got to live the life you're living, and I get a little worked up about the idea of my kids going to prison camps. Little worked up about that. So, Roman history 101. The Republic was ended by people in the Republican government trying to take power to save the state. That's basically take power to save the state. That's what they're doing right now. And I haven't really explained Tiberius and the marches on Rome and the marches by the citizens and how that all ended. But basically, it all ended with, acknowledging that you can't govern without the people, but then controlling the people, trying to buy the people off, feed them false information, and use them for authoritarian purposes. The whole point of the people having power for the aristocrats was to figure out how to control the people. Not respect the people, control the people. The big difference with America, traditionally, imperfectly as it is, applied, the big difference has been that we found our foundation is individual liberty. The individual free-thinking person is what matters and gives legitimacy to the government, not the power structure controlling blocks of people for political power. Stay sideways and maybe don't become one of those blocks of pawns.